We've got Swaminathan Aiyar, consulting editor of ET Now and Economic Times with us. Swami, thanks very much for joining us this evening as we kick off the pre-budget coverage as Swaminamics. Well, the last 12 months have been quite a nightmare for the government. Politically, it's been hard. More importantly, reform-wise, the entire reputation at stake. Do you think Pranab Mukherjee is going to be under pressure to come up with a populist budget this time?
I think, in fact, Pranab Mukherjee would be fighting precisely to go in the opposite direction. And I don't know how that fight will work out within the Congress party. If you look at the election cycle, which Pranab Mukherjee will be very aware of, the election is in 2014, in April or May. Therefore, 2014, you will have no regular budget, only a vote on account. So the last full budget will be 2013. 2013 will have to be the election budget. If 2013 is an election budget, 2012, this year, is the last chance to have a tough budget that gets the finances in order. This, I think, is going to be Pranab Mukherjee's argument. And if somebody says, well, you know, we're unpopular, he will say, look, don't get so obsessed by the short term. The long-term view is the entire electoral cycle and preparing for the elections. In that cycle, this has to be the tough year. Next year will be the populist year.
You know, there's always the long term, and there's a lot of what you're saying is making economic sense. But do you really see that political compulsions could, in many ways, handle the budget completely differently? Will the UPA need to do some serious damage control, especially since it's coming out of elections itself?
Well, both Pranab and Manmohan would argue the case that this has to be a tough budget. I suspect they will win the argument. You see, they have to be clear that they have enough of a majority in Parliament. Right now, the way Mamata Banerjee has been behaving, there is a complete lack of certainty whether they have a majority, even in the lower house. So the only thing that saves the situation is the UP election. We are still in the election, in the electoral campaign, but it is general belief that the Samajwadi Party and Congress put together are likely to form the next government. Even if by some chance they don't, then there is a small chance that the BSP and Congress form a government. Now, in either of those scenarios, either the Congress will then induct the SP and get its 21 votes in the Lok Sabha, or else induct the BSP and get its 20 votes in the Lok Sabha. Either way, it will have a new party in the UPA, which will more than outweigh Mamata Banerjee if the lady tends to get bolshy and revolt. So I think, for the budgetary purposes, when you say the political angle, the most important political angle is the UP election, its consequences for one new party being inducted into the UPA.
All right, UP elections will have a bearing on the budget. Point noted, Swami. But do you also think this is going to be a bit of a nightmare for Pranab Mukherjee to manage the budget arithmetic this year? Because there seems to be very little scope to increase revenues.
No, you are now talking like a wise man, and politicians are not always wise. This is not the way Mamata Banerjee would frame the question at all. Mamata Banerjee would simply say, I have to give, and somewhere somebody has to produce the money, and if necessary, she would just print notes. So, within the framework of being prudent, you need to have a tough budget. Within that's why I said, probably this year will be the prudent one. And next year, let that be the populist one.
Okay, Swami, the last two budgets, and you've been analyzing those two budgets very closely here in ET Now, sounded pretty much the same. The big fear in India, Inc. is that this could also be, a more of the same kind of a budget. Do you see that happening, or do you think we could be in for a bit of a surprise there?
No more of the same. I think it's very clear that the fiscal stimulus that was given when we slashed all our duties on goods and on services, that is going to be reversed. So I think you are almost certain to see that the service tax and the excise duty, that will go from 10% to 12 or even 13%, I wouldn't be surprised. A huge big change to bring in lots of more revenue. I would most definitely expect that. Almost certainly you will find that the service tax, instead of being levied on a listed 120 services, you'll say now be listed on everything barring a short negative list. That would then greatly expand the service kitty. So these are not small measures. This is not business as usual. They are big measures. I mean, I would like to see some other measures. I would love to see a huge tax put on bidis. I mean, I find it outrageous that such high taxes are put on cigarettes and nothing is put on bidis, or very little is put on bidis. And the argument that bidis are labor intensive, excuse me, if you say that cigarettes kill, I'll be very happy that we are now employing more and more people to kill. I mean, is this regarded as proper government policy? So and that could raise a huge amount of revenue if you did it.
Right, Swami. Okay, let's just look at your own wish list. I mean, is decontrol of diesel something that you see happening? Don't you think there could be more political furor if the government was to deregulate diesel prices? That would be one of the key things.
There will be a political furor any time you do it. But if at all you're going to do it, this is the year. Next year is the election budget. Next year would be the wrong time. This year, UP election is already over. Next election is Gujarat, which you will lose, and nothing else for this year. So in terms of timing, there cannot be a better time. So as I said, there is going to be a furor whenever you do it. But it is ridiculous not to do it.